Hello, this is my submission for individual assignment 4, knowledge organization in everyday life. My name is Seth Carlson. I'll be looking at my own personal library or personal collection, whatever term you want to use, I suppose. The material type that I have is primarily books and graphic novels, making up about 90% of the collection. The rest of it is a handful of movies, TV shows, video games, and a couple of board games. The date of the collection is actually a little bit weird, which I didn't actually realize until taking a closer look at the collection. All of the works were published between the 19th, 20th, and 21st century. The highest number of them being published in the 21st, with one exception being Plato's Republic, which, as far as I am able to determine, was written in 380 BC. So I suppose that by that logic, you could make the argument that, oh, my collection has works from 380 BC to the 21st century. Wow. But I feel like if I were to define it as such, that would kind of misrepresent the collection. So I just kind of said, okay, the collection is 19th to 21st century works and also Plato's Republic. As far as uniqueness of the collection, it's kind of books that would have emotional significance to me, so that kind of makes it difficult to find an identical collection really anywhere, unless the collection is just big enough that it happens to cover everything that is also on my shelves. The books are there either for my own reading or so that I can lend them out to others. I lend out a couple books to students, and that's been very fun to be able to do. It also has books that I want to read, but haven't yet. So that'd be, for example, books where I have read like the first 5 of the series and I own the next 4, but I haven't gotten around to reading them yet. Or books that were either given to me by recommendation or as a gift. So, for example, a friend of mine lent out 3 books from a sci-fi series he really liked, and I'm planning on reading those, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. And there's also gifts and repeats. So I have one of my books is a series. It's called the Red Rising trilogy. I really like it. A friend of mine bought me like a signed copy of like book 1. It's like a special edition so it ends up where I have a repeat of that book, which I don't necessarily need, but I also kind of want both copies, one to read and one to display. And there's a couple of other examples like that, very similar in the collection. So, yeah, that's all for this slide. Moving on from there, there's method of organization, and admittedly, in some cases, a lack thereof. The users, as mentioned, is me and a couple of friends. The method of organization is more roughly by space and size. Generally speaking, I organize them so the books themselves are kind of double stacked, so there are 2 rows in a shelf. The back left is where I tend to put the bigger and the taller and wider books, organized going to the front right, being the smallest and thinnest books, so that at least in theory I should be able to see all of the books that are displayed and be able to recognize them by color or by seeing a little sliver of what their title is. They're also roughly organized as space allows, where an individual shelf will be organized as I just described, but as being as much as possible books that I either have read or books that I have not read. And I'll explain a little more of that later. As far as authority control, mostly it's just books that have an emotional significance to me after reading them. It tends to be books that I want to own and have in my shelf. Or, as I already mentioned, interested in reading due to either the premise sounded cool, the reputation, so some more like quote-unquote classic works like Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I own it, I want to read it, haven't gotten around to it yet. Or by recommendation from a friend, which I already talked about a little bit. Identifiers that have been chosen: height, once again, pretty loosely, and also media type grouping. Where video games tend to get grouped together, movies are grouped together, graphic novels get grouped together, books are grouped together as much as possible as space allows. So this is the first picture I have. You should be able to see my mouse here. The top shelf up here is primarily books that I have not read, going from this book, Words of Radiance, to the right. I have read none of those, whereas the shelf immediately below it, all of the books that you can see, including the ones that you can't see the title of, I have read. And just, I zoomed in a little bit on the picture over here to show the double stacking of the shelves, and also show just kind of where the movies and DVDs and video games are hiding. So that's that. As mentioned before, the haves and has not. This entire picture over here is a bunch of books that I have not read. It also, I mentioned board games. There's a chessboard here that I've been playing on for a really long time. And then this picture on the right is a bunch of books that I have read. The front picture is the entirety of Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series, which I really loved as a kid and still love as an adult. And if you look closely, you can see the double stacking of the books. Moving on from that, I referred to this sort of side desk here as books I have in circulation. So I try to keep, I'm kind of in the middle of a bunch of these books, about anywhere from 10 to 70 pages in at any given time, and I'm kind of picking my way through them one at a time, more or less. But that's what this desk is, including books that I don't own also end up on this desk to keep them separate from the rest. And this bottom two shelves here is just kind of stuff that I need to organize more but have not gotten around to, which I'm going to talk about a little more on the next slide. So for future organization, I think I need to get rid of some of my duplicates. For example, I have 2 copies of the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels, one in color, one without. Considering I don't have much space, I probably need to get rid of some. Non-valued entries, there's a couple of books where I read like the first book of the series, didn't really like it, should probably get rid of the rest of the series. For editions, there's some books that are kind of old and I need new copies of. There's some books where I don't have the complete series, or where the series is mismatched, and I'd like to either complete the series or have a complete set that is all matching. And then the shelves themselves kind of need repair or replacement, partially so that they don't fall apart, and also partially so that I can display the books and make them look prettier than they currently do. So yeah, that's my presentation. Happy holidays, all.